Happy Tuesday, everybody. I'm Teller Morose, joined by my co-host YOYO, and this is Tier List Tuesdays. I'm a little sick. I'm just gonna be honest. My throat's been killing me today, but we're doing our best to get through it, and I think we're gonna be okay. If it sounds like I'm gargling marbles, it's just cough drops. Don't worry. YOYO set up this entire tier list. I had nothing to do with it, and it looks like we're doing a medieval weapons tier list. Care to elaborate on how this is going to go down for us?
Well, I wasn't really 100% sure how in depth or how much you really like talking about medieval weapon stuff, but I figured if nothing else, we can always relate it back to video games because all this stuff makes itself very prevalent within video games, and you know what kind of stuff you find yourself drawn to, just what you like, or stuff. So far as we could rate it on their coolness factor, we could rate it on the fun factor, we could rate it on the actual usefulness factor. We could rate it on what kind of weapon we personally would want to use if we were randomly thrown into a medieval kind of scenario.
I like that one.
That's kind of what I wanted to do. That's kind of what I wanted to do as well.
Okay. You know what? We'll aim high for that, but we'll also try to put in like the coolness factor and stuff like that.
Sure.
So, without further ado, while I have a coughing fit in the corner, tell me about this first thing on the list. We have the arming sword.
Yes. So I separated swords into basically two categories, which are really just one-handed swords and two-handed swords.
Uh-huh.
The arming sword is your super basic one-handed sword. This is basically like everything ranging from a super basically gladius, like ye old Spartan style, or much more modern, like the sidearm of knights, you know?
Okay. Like your genuine like go-to kind of like knight sword kind of thing.
Yes, but the one-handed one, not the two-handed one. That's the important bit.
Gotcha. I consider myself a pretty basic bitch when it comes to like RPG games and stuff. I
does
love
sound
just
like you.
having. Ouch! But I said it first, so I have no reason to complain. No, I mean like that'll be my go-to thing. Is like I'll use a regular sword, maybe some like healing magic, and like that's kind of my thing. Skyrim's a little bit different, but like Dark Souls and Code Vein, otherwise known as Anime Dark Souls.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm like the regular sword kind of boy.
I definitely, in video games, swords have a or arming swords have a really, really strong place because they're the basic weapon. They are the normal weapon, and there are a trillion of them, and
Yeah.
they have some really cool looking versions because they are
Oh,
cool.
true.
They are really cool.
I think it was Oblivion, maybe Skyrim had the glass sword.
They both
Which,
had glass, but one of them looked really cool. One of them looked kind of dumb, in my opinion.
Yes. I don't remember which one was which. But yeah, the kind of like greenish metallic kind of quality to it.
Yeah.
I'll find a picture and throw it on the
Oblivion
screen
glass
right now.
swords look pretty solid, but Skyrim ones are like real big and clunky, and I don't know why.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, so we are looking at the same thing. Yeah, but I don't know, to me it's like that stuff's kind of cool. And like you said, they're kind of like the base, which means they're not like lacking in really any kind of
Yes.
skill type or anything like that.
They have no real downside, and they kind of work with every build. And because they're one-handed, that means you could also use a shield with them, and that's a huge bonus.
Or if you're feeling real frisky, another sword.
Ooh, yes. If the edge on your blade was not quite edgy enough for you, you could get another blade to supplement your edginess.
There you go. You mean edgy in like the personality sense, not the actual like edge of a sword.
Por que no los dos, bro? Por que no los dos?
You know what? You got me there. Yeah, for me this is like an A. This is like solid shit. It might be an S if you're feeling it, but to me it's like
I'm
there's no.
not feeling S. I think
Okay.
there's one thing that holds me back on it, and that is because in real life, arming swords are not quite as not quite as one size fits all because
Yeah.
they actually require maintenance, like a lot of maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta keep them oiled. You gotta keep them sharp. If you leave them out in the elements at all, suddenly you're walking around with a butter knife. It's no
Yeah.
bueno.
Especially when you're trying to go against, like, I don't know, 10,000 other dudes in a castle. Like, that's kind of, I don't know if that's going to go well for you.
They also, like, cutting wise, if somebody's wearing armor, you're kind of doomed. So you have to start using it like a thrusting weapon, which is not ideal. Doable for sure, but not ideal. And
Yeah.
when you're cutting with it, you have to worry about edge alignment, which requires actual like skill. You have to make sure that you're
No.
you have to make sure that you're hitting at like a really good angle, or else it won't cut. And if it doesn't cut, there's no point. You're basically again just a butter knife or a stick. So it actually requires skill and effort and training to use correctly, and effort to keep up with. And I would say, rule of cool, really good, all around, really good. But in real life practicality, maybe not as good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you were talking about, like, the thrusting and stuff like that. And, that's, like, something further down the list, namely spears.
Yes.
Are definitely way more accustomed to that kind of thing, but they're all going to have their faults, and that's why these kind of weapons exist in the first place. It's because you need to find a way to get around the issues of whatever the other weapons are.
Right. And that is one thing. We'll get to it as we go. Arming swords do not match up super great against some other weapons,
Oh, yeah.
which can be fixed by just having a shield. But so some weapons give it a hard time for sure.
Yeah.
I think A is good though. I think it's still A quality in just like an all around stand.
Yeah, hard agree on that one. All right, that is the arming sword. Next up, we have the long sword. Guess what the difference is? It's a long boy. That's
But it doesn't even
big
have to be
two-handers.
long. Is the crazy thing. It just has to be two handed. Like that's
Yeah,
there are short long swords. There are arming swords that are notably longer than long swords. Then again, there's long swords that are like stupid long. Like Sephiroth looks at that and says, "Dang, man."
what a cool guy. Yeah, long swords are an interesting one for me. Or I think the Elder Scrolls calls them claymores. I don't know if that's used outside of the Elder Scrolls, but
Claymores are a specific type of longsword that actually has clay in the blade to absorb shock.
okay.
Yeah.
Fancy. Oh, more clay. Claymore. Wow. Don't listen to me. I'm stupid. Going through my experiences of video games, I was never a big fan of the longsword because it's like, yeah, sure, in the game it does more damage, but it also like swings slow and isn't cool to me because you can't have your extra hand free, and like, yeah, sure, maybe it looks intimidating, but also like when you swing a bitch so slow that enemies can just kind of like slowly shimmy their way to the left or right and stop your vertical swing from coming down over their head. Not as cool.
Now, see, in video games, I'm kind of the exact opposite. I like long swords a lot in video games because they have a really, really wide arc and good reach, which means I can try to keep people at a distance and make really wide swings that are hard to avoid. And if they hit, they do big damage. Now, they leave me open, and it's not a super good defensive option. But pretty much the only time I played through Skyrim as a full melee class, I was with a great sword, a claymore.
Really?
Yeah, because I just, it was really satisfying to hit things really hard.
Okay, no, that's fair. That's fair. I definitely understand the landing a big blow on an enemy. Prime example of that actually is Breath of the Wild with all of their like really big weapons just in general. Like
Yeah.
long swords are definitely one of them, but like when you have that like two swing combo and it, like launches them off of cliffs and shit, it's like that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And that's kind of, in a lot of games, great swords, long swords are designed very, very rule of cool. They break a lot of practical designed standpoints a lot of times when they're, making these long swords. Like in Soul Calibur, you have Soul Edge, which is basically just a gigantic triangle. Is this sword at all reasonable? Absolutely not. But when you hit people with it and they go flying, does it feel good? Yes, sir.
Oh, hell yeah. See, that's the thing. It's like a lot of this I probably am going to be basing a lot on just like my video game experiences, because a lot of these weapons, other than, like a bow and an axe, I really haven't like held them for a long time or used them. But I think a big thing for me is like the balance of weight for a longsword when you're actually holding one is like, you have very little amounts of room to grip the entire weapon. It's not like a spear where you can hold it with some space between your hands. With a longsword, you're kind of like, your hands are almost together. And to me, that's not comfortable with a very heavy thing.
Well, so you know how I was talking about you have to do thrusting attacks with an arming sword to beat armored opponents.
Mm-hmm.
Well, with longswords, there is a technique called half swording, in which you actually do just grab your sword by the blade and the handle and use it like a spear to thrust for facing heavily armored opponents.
That's kind of sick. I never even thought about that as like a way to use a longsword.
Some swords have a actual spot where you're meant to grab them, where it's either dull or it's got some sort of handle or something. A stereotypical what is it, a Zweihander does, I think. Might be wrong on that. But a lot of them, you just are relying on your gauntlet to protect your hand enough that it doesn't, cut you.
See, that's the part I don't like, where it's like, do I have to hold this bitch by the blade just
Yeah.
to, like, lampoon somebody?
I mean, it's one of the few ways for a sword to beat just like a really heavily armored person, but I don't know if I personally like it. Video games never really do this. I think some of the more modern ones, like what was it, Mordhau? I think they have half swording. Not 100% on that, but
what was For Honor? Did they never consider that as part of
I don't think so. I don't remember anyone half sorting in For Honor. Didn't play it a whole lot though.
Yeah. And every time I played, I was the small people, because they run fast and attack fast and stuff. I was a little samurai boy.
Yeah.
Or girl, I don't remember. Anyway, not the point. Long swords. Man, what you told me about the half sorting thing is kind of making me think that it belongs up there in A.
Well, they have the same problems as a arming sword as far as like keeping up with them and maintenance and whatnot. And then on top of that, they don't allow you the versatility of having a shield.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Can be really cool. Video games, one of my favorite, but overall, I think I have to put them a little bit below arming sword, just in B.
Okay, yeah, no, I'm fair with that. That was my original thought, and then I don't know, I was kind of blown away by what you were telling me, so I was like, ooh, let me think about this a little more. But now I'm done thinking about it, and we're moving on to spears. Spears are fucking sick, dude. Spears are cool.
I absolutely adore spears. Because the thing about a spear, I was talking about edge alignment, how you gotta like actually know what you're doing with a sword.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that with a spear.
Throw that shit out the window. You don't need no knowledge. You got a big stick with a little pointy tip.
Absolutely.
Are we counting halberds as spears?
Yeah, that's kind of... I was kind of encompassing all of them, because technically there's like different kinds of arming swords. Like technically I'm throwing a rapier in with arming sword, and that's like entirely for thrusting.
Okay, fair, yeah.
But
I think a halberd would probably be my medieval weapon of choice, in all honesty, because that shit's cool. It looks intimidating as all hell.
It's a very versatile and reliable weapon.
Yeah. I don't know. Plus, they just kind of look sick. Like I don't know what to tell you.
No, rule of cool. When you see a man in a video game with a halberd, you're like, oh my god, that guy! Look at that. That man could kill me.
Then there's there's one in Fire Emblem that's like the sickest fucking thing. I'm getting off track here, but I want to find it. Oh, it's called the poleaxe, of course.
Yeah, yeah.
But you get like the nice fancy one, and it's like I don't know, man. It just looks like murder and like personified as a weapon.
Yes. Murder personified as a weapon. Murder distilled into metal form.
It's also funny, like spears. Did spears come before swords? I have to assume they did because someone was smart enough to put a pointy rock on the end of a stick.
I'm gonna say so, yeah, probably.
And then we come up with all these other things, and then we're still sitting here like, yeah, but the spear's kind of fucking sick. So, like, why'd
Well,
you
the
come
thing
up with
about
the
the
other
spear is it gives you one super basic advantage, and that is reach. And reach is so huge that, like, okay, yeah, cool. You've got a really neat weapon there, Mister Arming Sword Master.
stuff?
But can you get within 8 feet of me? Yeah, I didn't think so.
Yeah, spears are. I wish there was more video games that used spears. It was like, there'll be some with like, the bow staff and stuff like that. And don't get me wrong, that shit's cool too. But like, I can't think of the last game that I played where I was like, oh fuck yeah, I get a spear.
I mean,
I'm just drawing a blank.
Vein,
Like,
I believe that's a spear that I
Code
used and
Vein?
thought was kind of garbage. Yeah.
I don't
Dark
remember
Souls also
using a
has
spear.
spears, but it's also garbage.
Hmm.
Soul Calibur has a couple spear people. One real spear person and a couple with like staffs.
Hmm.
Um, yeah.
I mean, again, the one that I want to go to now is excuse me, Breath of the Wild. They have the kind of the what I call the pokey weapons, which could be anything from a big stick to like an actual halberd. But it's not like they're good. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know. It's been a while since I've played a game where like I pick up a spear and I'm like, oh fuck yeah, let's do this. Maybe like
Well,
Far Cry Primal has like the throwing ones, I think.
a lot of games don't really include spears, like Oblivion, all the Elder Scrolls. I mean, until Skyrim added the what are they, Reiklings, whatever they are, little Goblin
Sure.
boys from Morrowind or whatever.
Oh yeah, yeah.
There were no spears of any kind in the game, which is kind of wild because that is the most basic thing, and it's the weapon that you could literally like. Oh, what's that? You're a farmer. You've never held any sort of weapon before in your entire life. Here's a spear. You're now a
Yeah.
trained warrior.
Here,
Congratulations.
here's a tree trunk and a big old rock that I found. Tie it to the end, and you are hired
Yeah,
to guard your own town.
like it's totally doable. Maintenance, there is still maintenance, and a
I mean,
spear
yeah.
shaft can break and whatnot, but it can also
Hmm.
be replaced. So
With another big stick you found.
yeah, but I mean that's pretty much it, man. Like spears have been around forever. From like you don't even need a rock to make a spear. You can just sharpen a stick. That's a
Oh yeah,
spear.
yeah, yeah. I'm over here thinking about tying rocks to stuff. Like, just use the stick, man.
Yeah, it is a pointy stick, and you know what? Ye age-old advice, and by age-old I mean it's on Game of Thrones. Stick them with the pointy end. That's all you need to know.
I mean, yeah, yeah. Just make sure you maybe give him a bonk over the side of the head if you really think you can, but you got the pointy bit. You just, you know,
Yeah,
and I mean stab someone through their intestines, but
the
sounds a little
crazy
more
thing
fun.
with spears is that there's a lot of variety because you got the really long spears that like require two hands, and you got to keep people at bay. But then you've got short spears that you can throw. And you got short spears that you actually wield with one hand and have a shield in the other hand, like the Spartans. Like there's quite the variety, and they're very very versatile. Yeah, I like spears a lot. I think spears probably S tier.
I was thinking the same thing, man. Spears are pretty fucking cool. We're throwing
They're
them in S.
one of two weapons that I would use in a medieval setting. I was stuck between spear and one other thing for a long time, and I eventually decided I wanted to do the other thing instead of the spear. But it still holds a very special place in my heart.
Oh, of course. By any chance, was that other thing the axe? Because that's next
No.
up on the list. Okay. I know you're talking medieval weapons, so you probably mean like these crazy battle axes and stuff. My mind always goes straight to either like a hatchet that like maybe a firefighter would use, or the little throwing axes, and both of those are pretty sick. Um, as for like actual battle axes, even in video games, I don't really use them that much, unless there's something that's just like way better than everything I currently have, and I'm like, I'll use this axe for a little bit, but then I'll go back to swords or whatever once I find a better sword.
Well, that's kind of the battle axes take what longswords are and then take it to a further extreme. What if it was even slower, hit even harder, and, and was even more unwieldy? Like, I don't know.
So, I'm gonna screenshot this because it's hilarious to me. Don't make me do that. Continue as a guest. Okay. There's an ad for Etsy where you can buy, and I quote, a 30-inch Viking bearded axe trainer. And if I'm not mistaken, it's a guy with an axe that is being sold. I don't. Maybe it's a training axe, but it makes it sound like they're selling the person holding the axe, and I'm very confused by that.
I assumed it was a training axe, but you know what? I mean, fair enough. Maybe it's a person. Who knows?
For $30, I'll just come hang out and never leave, and I'll tell you about axe stuff. Okay. Anyway, I was pulling up pictures of battle axes.
Yeah.
There's a couple really sick ones. I like the double-edged ones. Obviously, are in my opinion a lot. They seem more useful in my head, especially when they still got the pointy thing in the middle to, if you really want to poke somebody good.
Generally speaking, I prefer having, well, it doesn't have to be only single edge, but one of the big usefulness of it is having a hook on the back. And that hook can be like another bladed thing, but hooks are just generally useful.
Yeah, I actually just came across a picture of one that you were describing with like the hook on the back. Yeah, that is pretty. I can see how that would definitely come in handy for certain things. So battle axes are pretty cool.
Good for armor. Good for facing armored opponents. Doesn't have that huge issue that the swords do, wherein if you face an armored opponent, you have to try and thrust with it. No, if you're facing an armored opponent, your axe is a crushing weapon now. Congratulations. Just hit him. It'll be fine.
I'm putting that on a t-shirt. Just hit him. It'll be fine. That's a quote from... I'm not going to give anybody any credit there, actually. It's a quote from YOYO. God damn it. I'm sorry.
You tried so hard, but that's all right, buddy. So the axe.
Yeah.
I honestly think they're just too unwieldy. They have the negative sides of a longsword, with the only real positive that I'm aware of being that they're more effective against armor, and longsword has ways to work around that.
Fair. But which one do you think looks cooler between like an arming sword or a long sword and an axe?
I mean, a lot of games go out of their way to make arming swords look really cool. So I think they're probably at the top. Longswords can be really, really cool, but axes, as a general rule, just look kind of wicked.
Now, when you say wicked, do you mean that in a good way or a bad way?
A good way.
Okay.
I mean, they look like a weapon of war. They look like when somebody's holding a battle axe, I don't think to myself, wow, that guy, he's just a normal mercenary, just a normal soldier. I think to myself, that guy's here to split some skulls open.
Yeah. And it's always like, the video game trope is like the guy with the axe is always like, he's like bald and has like head tattoos and he's got like a braided beard and he's just generally like just a huge guy that's just like, it's time to kill. And, that's the guy with the axe. And we don't question it. He never uses a bow or a spear. He's the big boy. He's got the big weapon.
He uses the weapon that looks like it wants to kill you.
I think there's some points there for just general, like... I mean, maybe it's more of just like a movie video game thing, but like the people who use the axes are always just like it's fucking murder time kind of, that kind of look.
Yeah.
Homeboy from God of War is a pretty prime example of that.
It's definitely a flavor thing where, like...
Yeah.
Somebody that uses an axe, you know what they're about.
Yeah. I don't think this is going to be a stupid thought, but this is going into my ability to rank the axe on a tier list. I don't think I could pull off using an axe and looking intimidating at the same time.
Oh, I'm sure I could.
See, you would do a better job because you're not small, frail, and emo like I am. If I walk around with a battle axe, they're just like, what are you doing, man? If you walk around with a battle axe, people are like turning heads. They're like, oh fuck, this guy's like ready for something. Even in the apocalypse, like if there was like zombies or something and I had a battle axe, the zombies would be like, bruh, like we're gonna eat your brains and you're not gonna be able to use that thing because you're too, I don't know,
Yeah,
man. You just
maybe
don't you
put
don't
that thing down and grab a bow. Come on now.
yeah, you just don't have that X factor of cool guy with an axe. You don't have it. I'm sorry. It's gonna
I
be a
mean,
no from me.
I think it's largely a bulk thing. Like, even so, like dwarves are super stereotypical axe users.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing about dwarves is they're super stocky. They look like a like wall with
Yeah.
with a big old axe they're gonna hit you with.
Even
So,
if they don't have like the height factor to it, they still have the fucking like I am a big muscular man, whether you like the fact that I'm 4'3" or not. It's
exactly,
like he's
and
gonna kick your ass.
I think it's really the bulk that sells an axe user.
Yeah. Where are we putting axes, man? We've been on this a little too long.
I hate to say it, but I kind of think they're a C.
Really? I thought you were gonna say higher than that. I was thinking like B.
I could do B. I could say that they're there with long swords because they're kind of. I don't like that they're a bit unwieldy, and
Okay.
they would not be very high on the list of weapons that I would choose to use in a medieval scenario.
Okay. You know what? We'll put it as C. I'm good with that.
Okay.
Because now we've got a thing in every letter except for the failing ones, which is kind of a nice even spread.
Yeah.
But also, like you said, axes, or as we both said, kind of not my thing personally. You kind of have to have a certain image for it. They're a little not as useful in some circumstances. Excuse me.
It's also
And
really easy to overcommit to an attack with an axe.
I can definitely see that.
You do a nice full body slam, and then suddenly your axe is on the ground, and there's a sword in your heart, and you're like, "Hey, wait a minute."
Wait, let me get my axe out of the dirt before you sling
Yeah.
your sword through my throat. Just give me a second, guy, okay? Come on. Uh, let's go to maces. Again, kind of similar to the axe for me, where it's like I'm not a mace boy myself.
See, this might catch you off guard, but I adore maces. This is the weapon I would use in a medieval scenario.
Hold on. Just to make sure, are we talking about the ones that are like pole based or the ones with the chain and the ball?
I personally think of the ones with a chain and a ball to be a flail rather than a mace.
See, that's what I was thinking. I was like, that's not a mace. A mace is like the spiky ball on the end of a stick, to put it
Yes.
very fourth grade.
No, I mean that's all it is. Like legitimately, it's basically it's a spiky ball at the end of a stick. I like flanged maces, which they don't have spikes. They have like ridges. They're my personal
Yeah.
favorite.
Yeah. Yeah, I can appreciate those for sure. I don't. The ones with just like a big spiky ball on the end kind of look a little too like cartoony to me.
Yes, they're very goofy looking.
Where it's like if I walked out with a mace with a spiky ball or even a flail in the zombie apocalypse, they'd probably say the same thing about the axe. Where it's just like, man, that's you're goofy. Like you're not gonna get me with that. You're gonna swing it around and hit yourself in the shoulder, and you're gonna cry. That's gonna be a no from me, fan. This is just America's Got Talent or whatever, but it's about me holding weapons in front of zombies. No one hit the golden buzzer for me. They were just like, no, I'm sorry, man. Like they watched the full act of me like strutting around with my mace, but they're just like, eh. Oh,
Yeah,
man,
not good
go
enough.
home.
Not good enough.
Yeah. Pretty solid weapons though. They don't have
Yes.
a ton of range, but they have, from what I can imagine, a lot of versatility.
Yes, so that's what I love about a mace. Firstly, upkeep on a mace, very low. Very low.
Hang on, man. I gotta sharpen my rock spikes.
Yeah. It's not really
Something.
something you have to worry about.
Yeah.
And it has the same, ability with a staff where, like, if it's not like a metal shaft and it breaks, you just go replace it. It's not that hard. And
Yeah.
then the beauty is you don't have to worry about edge alignment or what kind of armor your opponent's wearing. Just hit them. It's gonna hurt. I promise it hurts. I don't care if they're wearing a full set of plate armor with a nice solid helmet on. If you whack them upside the head, they're gone.
Oh yeah.
That's it. They're out.
Plus, like, if you have the not spiky version, in my opinion, we'll call it the cool version from here on out. Like you said, the impact of that is definitely going to like fucking hurt. There's not like
Crushes through armor.
yeah. It's like you're not gonna be like, oh, I got stabbed. It's like, oh, that was the equivalent of getting punched through my steel armor and into my fucking ribs. Like that, you're not getting around that.
If you hit if somebody tries to just like straight block a mace, the impact is so heavy you might break their arm anyways.
Yeah.
It's wild how much force is in a mace swing.
It kind of like weird thing to say, but police should go back to using those instead of batons. I'm just saying, maybe not the best take to have right now, but just.
I was about to say if their intention was to hurt and to do damage, you know what? I'd agree with you. Not a bad choice.
Okay. SWAT team members should get rid of their guns and no, don't listen to me.
Yeah, no, definitely not. But
I'm sick. I have a sore throat. I'm not making any sense.
Now,
yeah, go ahead.
a lot of people say like maces have like a really big problem versus spears or longer weapons.
Yeah.
And they kind of do. But they're also primarily meant to be used one-handed, which means you can have a shield, which instantly makes dealing with arming swords or long swords or even spears a lot easier. And if the opponent has a wooden hafted weapon,
you break it.
You just break it. Just break it. Like that's
you take
all it
your
is.
Spiky ball thing and you just go whoosh. It's not a whip, but that's the sound it makes. And then the spear breaks into pieces, and then they go, "Oh no! Now all I have is a little bitty half of a stick, not a full stick."
And if they try to block with a sword, I mean, same thing. Just bash it.
Break through that sword, and then they're gonna be like, "Oh God, what have I done?" And that will be their last thoughts before they die.
Yeah, suddenly they're in a fist fight, except you have a mace. Ay.
We also call that just getting beat up. It's not a fist fight, but one person has a mace. That is someone getting their ass kicked.
Well, I like to imagine
tomato,
that they have a
potato.
chance. Yeah.
Yeah. Where are we throwing mace? I'm feeling good about them. Yeah.
I think they're fantastic. I was wondering if you would temper me on it, because I'm really tempted to just throw them an S. They are my favorite medieval weapon, and the one I would use by a mile.
You've definitely talked me into it. I'm gonna be honest. I'm just imagining like just having a fucking stick with a brick on the end of it, and there's spikes coming out of the brick because I'm psychotic, and then I go into battle.
Just put a railway spike through every hole in the brick, dude.
That's pretty much a mace, man. I don't.
That's a mace. In essence, that is a mace, and it is terrifying.
Video game designers, if you're trying to like make weapons for, I don't know, post-apocalyptic stuff, just listen to the rest of this podcast. We will help you out, man. Anyway, yeah, definitely 100% mace is going in S.
Beautiful.
Which is sick because now we have two things in S, and that doesn't happen very often. And let's see if it happens again. Maybe not with this one, but the next thing is bows. Good old bow and arrow.
Indeed.
I'm a slum piece of shit in that in Skyrim I was the stealth archer before people started talking about how sick it was to be a stealth archer.
How can you not be the stealth archer, though?
Well, here's the thing. I was going to be stealth and a sword, like a dagger, sneak up and get somebody.
Sure.
And one day I was just like, I don't know. I was like done playing for the day, but I didn't want to go to sleep quite yet, so I was just looking through the different skill stuff you can get. The big star maps or whatever for each class thing.
The Constellation
And
perk tree.
thank you for narrowing that down into 3 words that I could not think of. Um, yeah, I remember seeing the bow where it's like, yeah, if you pull back the bow, it slows down time, and I was like, that's psychotic. That's awesome. Like, what the hell? I'm like, that's the sickest thing on the face of the planet. So of course I stopped using stupid little blades and I went to a bow because it was sick. Um, I've shot quite a few bows in real life. Way more. It takes a lot of like patience and practice to actually be good with the bow.
Yes.
Patience and practice that I do not think I would be able to have in the midst of a fight. But bows are cool. They're just, I don't know. For me in real life, I don't think I would have the wherewithal to actually be able to be good at using a bow. And again, putting it into a stressful situation is just like sounds awful to me.
There is one kind of exception to that, and that is bows are right there with spears in the like training an army aspect because you don't need to train every individual archer to be able to hit a target at max bow range, whatever that happens to be.
Yeah.
You just need to train them to fire at a general elevation and just say, you know, if they could get roughly where they're aiming at, if that group of enemies, that charging knights, that horde of zombies, whatever they are, if they can hit in that general area, they'll probably strike flesh, and that's good enough.
Yeah. I just, like the situation in my head is you're trying to train some farmers because their town's about to get raided by bandits. So you give a couple people some spears, right? Because you get a stick, and congrats, you have a spear.
I mean, they already have pitchforks. Those are basically just spears.
There you go. But I imagine you see a guy and he has like the highest farm on the hill, which doesn't exist because it's a farm. But you're you're maybe like standing on a roof and you're trying to teach him how to use a bow, and you're like, there's gonna be a lot of raiders coming to raid this farm town. So shoot into your field, and then he doesn't. It's like, congrats, you can probably hit a bad guy if you can hit this field in front of your house.
Yes.
It's like you're guaranteed if there's enough people to, knock some people down with the bow if there's enough of them.
In a battlefield scenario, you don't need to be great at a bow to use a bow. In a like adventuring kind of scenario, yeah, you probably do because it's gonna be not 500 on 500. It's gonna be 4 on 30, and you're gonna have to kill 6 of them before they get to you. Good luck.
Exactly. Also, hold on. Sorry for the delay there, or the cut. We were talking about bows. Oh, I wanted to point out, bows are 100% my aesthetic as a man who roams the streets wearing all black, and I don't know, like, my immediate thought goes to Garrett from Thief, just being the sad emo boy that he is. And I'm just like, that's kind of like me, I guess. Ooh, someone has a cosplay thing that you can buy that looks just like the dude from Thief. That's kind of sick, actually.
Huh.
But yeah, that would be one of those things where, if I walk into America's Got Talent or whatever with my bow, the zombies might be like, oh, you know what? Like, this kind of, you're getting somewhere, buddy.
Yeah, he might actually be a threat this time. Hold on.
Yeah. It's like, is he going to shoot out our brains? Give him the golden buzzer, you guys. And then the crowd cheers, but they're also zombies, so it's not cheering. It's more like... Great for my throat ache, by the way.
I'm sure.
But yeah, no, I quite like bows. Obviously, the disadvantage is if you're close to somebody, you're kind of just screwed, but at that point, if you have a bow and arrow, just take out the arrow and hope for the best. Give them a good poke.
I mean, most people that use a bow have a backup weapon, and in the case that people are getting too close, you throw down the bow and pull out whatever your backup weapon is, which is probably an arming sword, because that's what they're for.
Yeah. I think I'd use a mace. If I had, like, a bow, I think I'd have a mace as the quick oh, someone's real close to me kind of weapon. But then the range isn't quite as good.
Yeah, the problem sometimes. So a mace is really really good with a shield, and without a shield, it's not as good because they're not really great for blocking with. Kind of
Yeah,
unwieldy.
I can see it. Bows are for me sitting between A and B. I'm kind of like they're pretty sick. There's definitely a lot of downsides.
Well, I can tell you two things real quick.
Yeah,
One,
go for it.
this is range advantage over literally everything, which is fantastic.
Yes.
They're never bad against anything. There's not a single weapon that a bow is disadvantageous against, unless you're in melee range, and then it's disadvantageous against everything.
Yeah.
But if you're in melee range, you probably already missed fourth shot, so you probably deserve your death that you're about to get.
At least pick up a different weapon and just try that for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I mean, if you must hit him with the bow, it's basically a club. Like,
I didn't even think about that. That's pretty funny.
but also, like, one other thing. I
Yeah.
don't know how common this was. I really don't know. I have absolutely zero idea. But I believe, at least in Wales, their archers actually would have a little bitty shield
Oh, okay.
that they kept on the arm that actually like held the bow itself, not the arm that pulled the arrow.
Right.
And if people got too close, they would pull out a sword and throw down the bow. And so then they would actually have a sword and a shield.
Ah, okay.
Now it's a little bitty shield, but a little bitty shield is still like way better than not a shield.
I would take my shield over my forearm, and when it comes to trying to block something, so I can definitely I think that's probably the way to go. Just like have a sword and tiny shield, and then you have your bow for when they're not super close.
Yeah.
If Yo-Yo's correct, Welsh people are doing it right, or they were way back when bows and shit were still the main way of fighting people.
And again, I have no idea if that's right. I'm pretty sure it was. I literally just saw it in a video game and was like, "Ooh,
Oh well, if the video game says it,
yeah."
was it like Dynasty Warriors? Because they're pretty accurate.
It was
I don't know
Total
if they're
War,
accurate or not.
Medieval 2 Total War.
Ah, okay. Yeah, no idea.
Yep.
We'll figure that out later. Maybe put an edit on the screen, or we won't. You can just see an ad for our social media that you should go check out. Hey, I got you again, you pieces of shit.
They never saw it coming.
Please subscribe. I'm crying over here. Please subscribe. Hey, what are you feeling for bows?
I think they're A.
You think okay? I was thinking the same thing. They kind of
Yeah.
have that all around not all around, but like good shit in general.
They're pretty much best in class ranged weapon. Like there are other ranged weapons, but just use a bow. It's fine. Like
Yeah.
eh.
My favorite ranged weapon that I've ever seen was in Castle Crashers, where the barbarians have like a quote unquote magic attack, where if I'm not mistaken, they have a catapult that just shoots random leftover weapons at people.
All right.
So instead of it being like an arrow volley, it's just like random like axes and maces and shit just hit the ground.
I mean, unironically, catapults were used to throw a great many things at people, including but not limited to corpses and
Leftover weapons,
leftover weapons. I don't know about, but for sure,
piles
like,
of trash,
just
probably.
barrels full of just whatever, piss maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. If you live in modern times, you could launch an outhouse at your enemies with a catapult.
A nice
That
little
would
porta potty
fucking
attack.
ruin someone's day. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, we're helping the video game developers out. Let us shoot outhouses and porta potties at people with a catapult.
Ay.
Anyway, we're moving on to Lance.
I felt
Lances.
weird about putting Lance here because I had Spear, and I kind of felt like Lance was just Spear but on horseback, which it is. But I felt like it was different enough to justify.
See, when I think of lances, I think of Google Images. If you just type in Lance weapon to Google Images, it's to a T what I was thinking, where it's like not a spear, or it's like one of the first few results, but it's like They kind of look like swords, but then they're, I don't know, round, I guess is the right way to say it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the super stereotypical lance. But the thing is, like, they're only used on horseback. Like,
Yeah.
some games have been like, no, people could use lances on the ground. And no, they use spears
Yeah.
like a lance, and they could like couch it on the ground instead of up under their armpit or there. But I don't know.
Lances on horseback really just seems kind of stupid to me in general. It's like, I know like they definitely serve their purpose or whatever, but it's like just what I would imagine doing if I were in medieval times and not an idiot. I would make a horse saddle armor, whatever you want to call it, that just had two fucking lances on the sides, just like, I don't know, bolted on there with some super glue or some shit. And then I would just have a bow while I rode the horse. That way if someone gets too close to me, it's like, oh, I already have these like side lances on the side of my steed here. And before they get too close, I might be able to shoot that guy off the horse with my bow and arrow.
All right, well, I got a couple little rebuttals for you here.
Yeah, go for it. What you got?
One, horse archers do and did exist, but the amount of skill it takes to shoot a bow and arrow on the back of a horse accurately is insane.
Okay, fine. Then I'll bring my catapult full of random weapons and porta potties with me, and it'll be trailing on the back like a trailer to a pickup truck.
Okay. Rebuttal part 2.
Yeah, go for it. What you got?
Hold the lance instead of the horse holding the lance is because, one, you are able to absorb some of the impact without the horse taking the impact, so the horse can keep going, and you just like elastic back a little bit, like backwards and like catch the force and kind of dissipate it a little bit. Whereas the horse would take the full brunt of it and would probably get severely injured from running into stuff. Also, you holding the lance means you are at the height of the enemy rider, so you can kill the enemy rider instead of killing the enemy horse, which is what your horse would do, which would mean that you would still have to kill the rider.
So the only thing I really didn't think about is I don't want my good boy or girl horse to die.
Yep.
That one like you definitely win there. But what if I made like big razor thing, like not razors like to cut people, but like something to hold the lances up like above a horse height, and then that way if they get too close, I can just hold on to the lance that's connected to the horse, and then that way it doesn't have to take all of the impact, because clearly I'm a fucking idiot and don't know where I'm going with this. Also, I want to put subwoofers on the back of my horse.
I'm not saying this can't work. I'm pretty sure you can come up with a design for this that would be reasonable, but I know it didn't happen.
Yo, no, it definitely didn't, which is why I definitely would have won all the medieval wars.
Now, I do want to be clear, chariots. One of the beautiful things about war chariots, they put spiked cess blades, okay, or that.
I'm sorry.
On the wheels.
Yeah,
as they get pulled through by the horses, the wheels are just spinning with blades as they go through.
That's kind of sick.
Pretty wild.
To be honest.
Yeah, pretty wild.
And like, again, that kind of like, just imagine on the back of a carriage, you just have like these like, I don't know, 4-foot spanned lances just hanging off the sides, kind of like think of like Lambo doors, but there's fucking lances on the end of them. I don't know. This is the goofiest thing. This is the goofiest episode I've ever done. But in my head, I'm just like, this makes sense. I'm just retarded and don't know how to describe it.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Many a time, I have imagined a world in which my truck has like a train guard on the front, where I just like run into people with it.
Yeah. Or like you have like a ramp kind of thing that makes it to the bottom, so that when you drive, cars are going over you because you're driving the ramp under their wheels, and then they're flying off into the distance while you're going fast under them.
Yes, yeah.
Sick. The sickest thing ever. If chariots had that, the horse would be in a lot of trouble.
Oh my lord.
Lances, I don't see a purpose for them because, as you mentioned, it might be more difficult to shoot a bow, but like have a sword, and then if someone gets too close, you can just kind of tilt the sword out and give it a good like side swing, and like sure that guy might be able to, or you could block the fucking lance with your sword, like ring that shit around and then stab him in the throat as he's swinging by with his lance.
So, generally speaking, the strength of a lance is it allows you to focus the entire force of the horse charge and your force into one singular point, which gives you an incredible amount of destructive power to the point of like breaking shields, like straight through them.
I guess
There are
yeah.
answers to this, of course, like a spear wall with spears and shields. Yes, the lances are still going to wreak havoc, but the cavalry are all going to die.
Yeah. Because I'm trying to imagine just like it's kind of the modern or the medieval equivalent to like holding I don't know, a baseball bat outside of a moving car. You know, you just like sticking your arm out the window and like getting ready to hit somebody's car or something.
I've never
Don't
done
do
this.
that.
Yeah.
No, definitely don't do it. But I'm just trying to think like, imagine like because in medieval times, literally, not medieval times, like medieval times, the thing you can go to and watch where they give you food and stuff. That was their thing. They had like lances and they would joust. Is that the right word?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm just imagining like if you're in like a coliseum type. I don't imagine. In my head, lances are just not used in war. They're used for sport, or maybe fighting to the death in a coliseum. But I don't know. To me, it just seems like there's got to be a more viable option for like a weapon to use on a horseback. A lance just seems not good enough. I don't know.
Interesting.
Like right now, I think they're down there in D for me. I definitely see the advantage, and I'm definitely talking straight out of my own asshole right now. But clearly, I've been talking about subwoofers on the back of horses, so I don't know what I'm talking about. But there's just something about them where I'm just like, I feel like there could be something that would make them better.
Well, generally speaking, they're kind of viewed as a disposable weapon in war, where basically you're going to charge one time, you're going to slam something with your lance, and your lance is probably going to break because of the force of the impact. If it doesn't, great, you can swing back around and go for another charge. If it does break, then you pull out your sidearm, which is probably a sword, and do that. It's just really for like one devastating blow, generally speaking, in actual warfare.
And then if it breaks, you're just using your sword on horseback.
Yeah.
Yeah, that just brought it down to like an E, man. I'm sorry. It's like, oh yeah, let's use this thing once when you could just like have a spear that's like your thing, I don't know. It's maybe it's just where do you feel the lance should go?
I can definitely see putting it pretty low because, like I said, it's not like a weapon that you can just use all the time, like they portray in Monster Hunter or similar games.
Yeah. Oh, Monster Hunter. I don't know. D, are you feeling D?
I think D's fine, yeah, because it's still like it's really good at what it does, but it only does it one time. Although, what is the name of this weapon? Hold on, let me remind myself. This doesn't affect the lance at all.
Oh, so I can go ahead and.
Yes,
oh,
absolutely.
God, I broke the whole fucking thing. No, we're fine. We're fine.
Oh yeah.
What are you looking for?
Let me type this in. Yes, I don't know how to pronounce this.
Oh boy.
Will it pronounce? Is there a pronunciation thing for me? Of course there isn't. Why would there be?
If it's only for words like elbow that you get the pronunciation words for.
Yeah.
It's never like the shit you actually need to know how to pronounce.
I think it's something along the lines of McQuidle? Yeah.
Okay.
McQuidle. Yeah, sure.
Text it to me and I'll put it on screen, and then that way people can be like, "Oh, you dumb babies, you don't know how to pronounce," and then they can just say it. And then
Of
they can
course.
also subscribe, because please subscribe.
Um,
I've already done that
okay,
bit
so
once.
this
I'm
is
sorry.
basically it's a club, right?
Okay.
Except around the edges of the club, they put obsidian blades.
Ooh.
Okay, here's the thing about this weapon.
Can you send me a picture too?
Oh, absolutely. When you hit someone with this weapon, those blades are going to absolutely shatter.
Bro, silence your phone. Come on.
I'm not gonna lie. I didn't even know it was on,
Oh.
so that was neat. But they shatter, they break. But that first hit, that one hit where they all shattered, that guy's dead. He's absolutely dead. I do not care what kind of armor he had on. That well, if he has like full plate, he's probably not dead. But like if he's got like leather armor or something, he's done. He's done, so boy. Then after that, it's just a club.
I
But
mean,
that
yeah,
first hit is insane.
that sounds like something that would be kind of reasonable to have on horseback. Where it's like, yeah, the blades might break or whatever, but at the end of the day, you still have this fucking cool weapon that still works on horseback, which to me is like the difficult part. But
Yeah, I mean the big thing, you don't get as much force out of like a swing from horseback as you do a thrust because it's all the momentum on one singular point.
yeah.
But yeah, it could be a good horseback weapon.
Well, let's move on. We've rambled about lances and horses.
Oh, I just wanted to talk about that weapon because I think that weapon is fantastic and just
Oh, of course.
such a ridiculous concept.
No, I think that was. I love that you brought that up, and I definitely want to look into that a little bit later. But let's get to the more defensive side with shields.
Yeah.
If some guy comes at you with a horse with two 12-inch subs in the back, and he's blasting the sound of the police, what are you gonna use to defend yourself?
Holy.
I'll stop talking about horses and subwoofers. I gotta. I had to get it out of my system. Anyway, we got shields. Not a weapon. I mean, it could be for sure.
I
But
put it on here because we were going to be talking about it with like every single one-handed thing on this list, and even bows apparently. So
yeah,
I felt like it had to be on the list somewhere.
it's definitely fair. Uh, there's a man. Let me. Tell me what you feel about shields while I'm looking this up, because I want to make sure that I'm right about this.
Okay, so shields, they give you defense, which is something that's really hard to come by. You're wearing like armor is great, but the thing about armor is the heavier it goes, the harder it is to continually wear it. The more it wears you down just wearing it, the more it limits your movement just wearing it. So sometimes lighter armor can be better, and some weapons having a heavier armor doesn't even matter. But having a shield, you can completely deflect things. It doesn't like most things do not straight catch on a shield. Although, if you have a wooden shield, which means of softwood, you can just like actually trap a weapon. Like if somebody hits it with a sword, and it can get stuck in the shield, and then you just jerk it out of their hand with the shield, and then just stab them because they're disarmed.
Fair, very fair point.
But you don't end up taking the full force of the blow against most weapons because the shield's actually for deflecting, which means that the shield can be a much better defense than armor will ever be.
Okay, I was curious because I remember in a game called Dark Sector, which was this pretty drab third-person shooter kind of basic stuff, but they had this sick-ass weapon called a glaive, and
The glaive.
glaive. Thank you.
Yeah.
I could have sworn there was like an ability in that game to use the glaive as a shield, which I thought was the sickest thing in the world, but apparently I'm wrong about that, and I don't see anything about it. So, yeah, glaives are pretty cool. That game is very boring without the glaive, and I appreciate it. It made me like that game a lot. But anyway, shields, I see them way more as utilitarian. Like you said, that you can definitely get your uses out of them in more ways than you would think. But I would prefer to have it just like I'd rather have it and not need it and not have it. You know.
Yes.
So regardless of whatever weapon I pick, I'm probably gonna have a shield on me just to be safe in medieval wartime.
So one of my favorite tactics with shields, and part of if I was using, if I was in a medieval situation, I would be wearing pretty heavy armor probably with a mace and a shield. Maybe not
Okay.
full heavy armor, maybe some sort of a like a studded leather kind of situation, but it lets you be really up in someone's face and just have like so much presence because having all this gear makes you really heavy, so you're really hard to like knock around. And with your
Hmm.
shield, you can literally just like shoulder slam people, basically, just like straight shoulder check them. And if they go off balance, bam, you smack them with a mace and they're dead.
See, that's a sick strategy, and I love it. But also, that's some real axe wielder sounding shit. Like,
I mean,
you know,
that's
he
one hundred
he
percent what
grunts
I would be
some
doing.
gargly line. You know, it's like it's a good day to die, and then he runs in there and does exactly what you're talking about with an axe.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
But he, you
you're
know,
more on the gallant knight side of like for honor, and then you run out and fucking beat the shit out of people.
yes, of course.
How
For
big of
honor
a
and
shield are we talking?
um, I'm personally a pretty big fan of not. I don't like kite shields very much, but it's just like a nice, not like full Spartan size, maybe like downsize for that, but just like a nice round shield there.
Okay, yeah, I was thinking the same thing because like those full body ones are sick.
Hmm.
I don't think I would ever like. I don't know. I would not be comfortable with that. It's heavy. It's a lot of weight, kind of just like on your arm, and then you got to do like the whole phalanx thing. And
Yes, so that's the big thing with big shields is you can use them to protect other people as well as yourself.
right.
Very useful for spear formation, spear walls, phalanx stuff like you were saying, as
Hmm.
well as for archers. You have a line of spearmen with shields in front that couch their big old spear in the ground so they don't have to hold it up and put their big old shield up in front of them, and then maybe even a row of people behind them with another spear and a shield raised up and above their head, and then archers behind that. And you literally just have a movable fortress with literal spears, spikes poking out of it for anything that dares to come at them while they rain death from afar with their bows. Actually wild.
Yeah. No, I mean that's sick. Like, and like you said, there's way more uses than you think. It just kind of depends on what kind of shield you have. Uh, Man, I don't like the big ones. Just in my head, I hate using the idea of using them.
In a single combat kind of scenario, a big shield is probably a detriment.
Yeah.
It's pretty much only in a battle where there's a lot of people around where
Hmm.
a shield's going to make a big difference.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true.
Or a big shield, that is.
However, shields have to be like it can't be like a spear where you pick up a stick and sharpen it or whatever. A shield has to be like crafted and there has to be a lot of effort kind of put even if it's like made out of wood, which is not useful by that point. You know that
No. But wind shields are very fine, all on their own.
I don't know, man. If you see a guy with a big metal axe, I'm thinking he's just gonna chop it off like
He
a
can't
branch of a
chop
tree.
through it in one hit, and that's one of the problems that people run into when you go against somebody with a wooden shield. You hit their shield, your axe bites into it, and then
And
when you
then
try to pull it out, it's
okay,
kind of stuck.
yeah, no, that's you. You said that earlier too. I was trying to grasp that as I was looking for fucking dark sector. Uh, no, that's a fair point actually. I think if I'm going my sad Garrett from Thief alt boy route, I think I would actually go for a wooden shield because they're not stupidly heavy, as I'm sure most metal shields are. You probably still have a little bit of mobility to kind of move, like at least if it's on your arm, you can still move your arm around and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's also like different clasps, different setups for how you actually hold the shield that can matter a lot. So if you just have like a little metal buckler, you actually just hold it in your hand.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
then you can
Fair.
have something larger that actually braces on your forearm, or you can have something
Yeah.
that braces like at your elbow and on your hand. If you get to like the really big stuff, you know.
Right. Right.
And the stuff that braces on your hand, you can actually punch with.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I was saying. Like some way to have a free hand would be the most, in my opinion, the most like ideal.
Well,
Because
that's
then you
kind of
still
the
have the.
if you have it on your arm, then you get a free hand. If you have it in your hand, then you basically get a punching weapon by default.
Okay, but hear me out on this because what if your shield only attaches at the forearm? You don't have to hold it, but it's also wide enough in circumference if it's a wooden round shield. You still would have like that little bit of give, probably a little bit past your hand of where the shield would end, right? Or do you think it would stop at like your wrist? Not that it
Just
matters that much. I was just kind of curious. Like,
generally speaking, shields pretty completely block out the hand.
yeah,
Generally speaking, not always. Smaller shields, of course, won't. But
right. See, I was just kind of curious. Was like, and again, this could just differ depending on who makes the shield, I guess. But like,
yeah,
depending on how wide it is that dependent on how much you actually have to like hold the shield before you?
yeah. So the whole thing with your different setups is how heavy is the shield that you
Mhm.
actually like. How good of a grip do you need to have on it? How braced does it really need to be?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's kind of like weight dependent. I feel like
Yes.
to boil this all down into one concentrated thing. I think shields go in A,
Yeah,
in my opinion.
I agree.
They're pretty. I wouldn't say necessity, but it definitely feels like there's no downside to having one unless, like you said, you have a massive shield and you're in like a one-on-one fight. Then it's probably not super helpful. But if you can still use a bow or a one-handed or even a two-handed weapon and still have a shield, why would you not want it?
Yes. It gives you a lot of options that you don't really have otherwise. And it gives you a
Right.
defense that is not super. You don't have to be super skilled with a shield to benefit from a shield. Just
Very
hold
true.
it. Hold it up, and you're benefiting already. If you can manage to hold it in front of you with a good form, wow, you're
Perfect.
actually just amazing.
Yeah. You might get a couple of non-ex-out people from America's Got Talent. They're not gonna buzz you out of there. Why do I keep going back to? Is Shield EI or is it IE?
you know, I assumed it was IE, but let me verify. Yeah, IE.
Okay. See, I asked that, and I was like, I feel like I just made myself sound dumb, but I'm glad you had. You at least said let me double check because I was like, if I sound stupid, I want to be sounding stupid with my friend. Um, we're moving right along to the dagger,
The dagger.
the what you said but different. Uh,
The slightly larger and more versatile generic knife.
yeah, your pocket knife that your friend has after you show him your pocket knife, and he goes, "That's not a knife. This is a knife." Remember from the thing, and then he pulls out a knife that's like entirely a little too big.
Man, I've got a knife just like that.
I would like. I used to have. I don't know if I'd even call it a dagger. It was a bayonet from an old rifle, and my granddad gave it
Ah,
to me. And
yeah.
I had that from, may he rest in peace. When he passed away, I kept it. And after like a month, I was like sleeping with it in my room because I was getting kind of like, oh, like what if someone breaks into the house? I want to be able to defend myself. And then my parents said, we have guns. Give me the bayonet. You're not allowed to have this. You're 17 or whatever. And I was like, okay. I should get that back from them now that I'm damn near 25, because that thing was really really cool. I think if I were again going out into the world with medieval weapons, a dagger would definitely be somewhere on my person because you never know. What if your bow runs out of arrows and your sword is a a butter knife now because you didn't take care of it,
Yep.
and your shield is got a couple axe marks in it, and you just don't feel like you can use your shield as a weapon forever. And then you got one last little line of defense, you know?
That's the thing about a dagger. It's not your primary weapon. Do not use a dagger as your primary weapon unless you're sneaking up on somebody so that their weapon being 4 times longer than yours doesn't matter. Don't use a
Yeah.
dagger. It's a really bad idea. Like, even if you were going to throw it, just use a bow. It's better. Has longer range. Like,
Use a dagger if you see a guy in front of you that's a bad guy, has like that really sick ass spear or mace, and you go, "Oh, I can sneak up on him and take his spear and or mace."
yeah.
Don't just be like, "No, I'll be good with the dagger," you know. But
Yeah.
it is fucking solid to have with you, you know.
Now, I'm not going to lie. Dark Souls has some stupid daggers that allow you really, really high mobility, where you, you get like dashing around, which can be really fun. And like Skyrim, it was I mean, a lot of my original characters were like Dark Brotherhood,
Oh, of course.
and so I would run around with a bow and a dagger because you get like the 12 times or 16 times damage multiplier on dagger sneak attacks, which is just like,
Yep.
I'm sorry, did you say dragon? Like, slice?
Dragon won't compare to me crouching behind it with a dagger.
Yes, yes. I crouched, went invisible. Oh, I'm not in combat anymore. Surprise, surprise. 16 times damage. Dragon is dead. Thank you
Yeah.
for your soul. Donation is appreciated.
And also, thanks for all the bones. I'm gonna go sell them to the townspeople.
Abso-freaking-lutely.
I kind of just want to play Skyrim now. Like, that sounds kind of fun. Anyway, hear me out on this. Dagger is a solid S tier for me. Not as a main weapon, but God, would I feel awful if I didn't have one on my person. Like it's the
Your
perfect.
reasoning is solid, and I'm kind of surprised because like I have the exact same reasoning as you, but instead of like I was like, what a solid weapon. You really gotta have at least one on you just as a backup, just in case. Solid B tier.
Okay.
That was my thought process.
So hear me out on the S type thing, right?
Yes.
I never will I say just walk out with a dagger and you'll be totally fine, but it's just like personally, like even in real life right now, like if I went out to I don't know, excuse me, get some groceries or something, I carry a knife with me, not because it makes me, you know, scary, dangerous, badass, but it's like I'd rather just have it on me just in case something goes down, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Good to have for sure.
Yeah, and if I don't have one, I feel kind of like a little more on edge. So maybe I have like a weird mental connection to knives that just make me feel good. But you know, it's kind of like that mental safety net of just like if anything goes horribly wrong, at least I can still say I have this, and I'm not just gonna like get my ass kicked or whatever. You know, I can at least say I can halfway defend myself, and it might not be great. You know, it's been a while since I've actually had to like, you know, use a knife for any self-defense purposes. But
You've had to use a knife for self-defense purposes?
yes, but we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
But you know, it's just one of those things where it's like a little bit of a safety net. You know, like we were saying earlier, like if God forbid all of your other medieval weapons that you have just fall apart.
Yes,
and,
if they
you know,
randomly explode.
Yeah, they can't handle the pure 808s that are slamming out of those horses' subwoofers, and all of your weapons just turn to dust from the amount of bass that they're blasting out of those speakers. Then you know your dagger's still hopefully gonna be there, and it's, you know, again, I don't want to say it's like this will save your life, but it definitely could.
It definitely could. Yeah. I mean, how many times have we seen in a movie or a show or something where a person gets completely disarmed and then they don't check the fact that he had a dagger, you know, in his boot?
Yeah. Speaking of which, I got new boots, and they actually have a dagger slot, and I think that's the coolest shit on the face of the planet.
That's neat.
I can't. Well, I mean, if I wore them out somewhere, but I wear them to my job, so it's not the same. They have metal detectors, and they won't let me bring my own knives in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it'd be smart if we went right down the middle, since you want to say B and I want to say S. Put it at A.
Okay. I mean, I could say S, but
Oh my god.
under the stipulation that it is not a primary weapon.
Yeah, that's definitely fair.
And that's the thing that like gets me about it. That's the thing that like makes me like,
Right. No, I definitely get that. So we're throwing it into A. Dagger. And last but not least, we have the Skyrim DLC weapon that no one gave a fuck about because you could turn into a fucking vampire, you guys. Crossbows. You get crossbows in the Skyrim DLC.
yeah.
Or you get to be a vampire.
Hey man, that was a hard choice for some people. Okay.
You know what's sad is I think at the I don't want to spoil the DLC. Hey, maybe possible spoilers for the DLC, the Skyrim, whatever it's called. I'll put it on the screen. I'm pretty sure either way you, like whichever path you pick, I'm pretty sure you either become a vampire or get a crossbow. Like you do both regardless. I think.
I don't think you become a vampire if you go the other path, but you can get a crossbow.
Huh. I could have sworn at the end if you picked like the human thing, it's like you had the chance to kind of like sacrifice your human, whatever. Doesn't
Maybe.
matter. Okay, end of spoilers. Possibly. Crossbows. I can appreciate them. To me, they're below a regular bow and arrow. Because... Are you there, by the way?
Oh yeah, I'm right
Okay.
here.
I'm sorry, it went real quiet to the point that I thought the call ended, and I was like, uh-oh. Yeah, crossbows are more likely to malfunction. They're a little more mechanical, which means you don't have to pull the string back to shoot the bow, but you have to do that to load it. And
Some crossbows, especially later crossbows, have a loading mechanism with a crank or something.
yeah, but then you gotta crank the thing to load an arrow into it.
Yes, but
If you're
what
smart
this
with a bow and arrow,
allows
you
you
can
to
just grab it
do
and go for it.
is if you are not able-bodied, you can use a crossbow still.
Okay, yeah. I guess for like I don't know, like home defense in the medieval times, that would probably be pretty sick.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess I can kind of see it.
Also, a bolt has more. Well, not this isn't 100% true, but you straight fire a crossbow for piercing, whereas if you straight fire a bow, the piercing is not great. If you want really good like piercing potential with a bow, you gotta use a longbow and you have to arc because the gravity gives you your piercing power. Whereas with a crossbow, you can just shoot straight and you're pretty solid.
That's true.
However, they are clunkier and definitely like if you draw back a bow and shoot an arrow, you can do it again pretty quick. You shoot your bolt, yeah, good luck.
I was kind of curious. I was just looking up what crossbow bolts look like, and I came across this picture of 5 different kinds, each with different kinds of tips, and one of them looks like oh man, what are those things called? Like a chisel, and that sounds god awful and painful. It just like yeah, there's the really pointy, sharp one, and then there's this one that's like V-shaped, kind of like open scissors, and that terrifies me a little bit. But there's something about these last 2 that just kind of look like chisels, where I'm just like, oh no. I'll put the picture on the screen as I talk about it, but wow, that looks awful.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can definitely see your point. I don't know. To me, it's just there's something about crossbows where it's like the time that it takes to load them just feels. You know, if you're like really good with a crossbow, you might be able to get away with it. But I feel like if you're really good with a bow, you'd still shoot faster.
Yes. The big point of like strength for crossbows is that technically anyone can use them, and they have more penetration. So if a guy in full armor with a shield up is running at you and you shoot a bow at him, he's probably okay. If you shoot a crossbow at him, it's probably going to punch right through his shield. It may not kill him, but it'll hurt.
It's gonna hurt, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, no, that's a fair point. Aesthetically, I think crossbows are fucking sick.
Yes.
Like, if I see people today with crossbows, I'm probably more afraid of them than I am someone holding a gun.
Funny
Weird
enough,
as that may be.
if I'm not mistaken about this, and I don't know if this is an everywhere thing or just our state, but crossbows during bow season, if you are disabled such that you cannot use a bow, you can use a crossbow, but only if you are disabled. Otherwise, crossbows are considered OPOP and not allowed in bow season.
They're overpowered?
Yeah, man.
Like literally they're considered OP?
Yeah. No, like they're above the class. Like you can't use the crossbow during bow season.
Huh.
Because it's too strong. It's too good.
Is there a crossbow season?
No, but I think after bow season, when it opens up to muzzle loaders, then you can use crossbows.
But then you can also use guns.
Yeah, but only muzzle loaders.
But
which kind of suck.
Is a crossbow better than a gun? I guess in some cases, yeah, it would be.
It can be, yeah. It is quieter, easier to use. You only need one shot anyways, but if you miss, you might potentially have a chance to reload if they don't freak out. Whereas if you shoot a gun, everything's gone, bro.
Yeah. Okay, you know what? You've sold me. Crossbows are pretty sick.
Yeah, so after all that, E, huh? No.
Hold on.
No, I don't think they're E.
I think I'd put them in A. They're in the same tier for me
B.
now.
I was thinking B, but
okay.
I could go A. But I don't think they're that good.
Yeah. I'll go B. B feels right.
I think the slowness of them. Plus, they're kind of a late medieval weapon. They didn't exist for a lot of the medieval time period.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Pretty sick. This was a good one. It was nice.
I'm glad. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
This is a good episode, you guys. And I haven't even edited anything. This is good.
I was hopeful about this one. I like medieval weaponry stuff a lot, and when I was trying to come up with a tier list, I kept coming up with ideas, and I was like, no, and then something in the back of my head said, you really like medieval weapons, and I said, darn, you're right, I do.
Darn it, inner thoughts, you're right.
Yes.
Hate when that happens.
That's something I had to make this list, and I was like, I just hope my good buddy Teller Morose will be capable of playing off of this stuff with me. Let's find it out.
Yeah, and then I just talked about horses for 10 minutes straight.
Horses with subwoofers. I mean,
yeah,
exactly what I expected.
Oh shit. Anyway, let's read off this list here, man.
Oh, go right ahead.
So we have absolutely nothing in the F category. That's nice. All the things are pretty not failable.
Can I just clarify something real quick?
Yeah, go for it.
The reason there's nothing in the F category is because if there were weapons in the F category, you would have died. Those weapons didn't get used because you died if you tried to use them.
This is a weird thought, but there's probably quite a few medieval weapons that we just don't know about because they sucked and no one talks about them because they were garbage. That's interesting. So yeah, nothing in F and E because everything that we chose was relatively passable. The least passable in the D category with the lance because it's not stopping my fucking horses with subwoofers. In the C category, we have axes. In the B category, we have long swords and crossbows. In the A category, we have the arming sword, the dagger, the bow, and the shield. And in our super tier, S tier, godlike category, we have the spear and the mace. And if you ever run into your boys in the post-apocalypse, you bet your ass we're using pointy sticks and spiky balls on a stick.
I was about to say pointy sticks and spiky balls on sticks. We're real fans of sticks around here.
In all honesty, in a post-apocalyptic world right now, I think I would definitely just walk around with a mic stand because, God, I've been hit with one of those things and they're not fun. That's pretty close to a spear, so I think that's what I'm rolling with.
Sounds reasonable.
We'll make you a mace out of a mic stand too, just so we're all clear.
All right, good. Glad we got me covered.
Yeah, of course.
All right. Well, this has been a pleasure. I really enjoyed it, and I hope everybody out there did as well. Thank you so much for watching this episode. Hopefully you will catch us on the next one. We've got a like button, a subscribe button, and there's this section down below where you can post comments saying whatever the heck you want.
I'm going to call Teller Morose a dirty homeless person.
You wouldn't be the first.
Yeah, no, actually I was the first because I did that to my own video a while back.
I know.
Hey, great list, by the way, man. You absolutely killed it on this one. And
Well,
I was super happy to have this happen.
Yeah. I'm glad I was able to come up with something. But
Yeah.
happy Tuesday, everybody.
Get out of here.